I mean, Palmer&Kunkel. We should talk.
Good morning, Mr. Palmer.
Howdy, Mr. Kunkel.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Good. Glad to hear it.
Just worked out. Blood is pumping. It's always a good thing. It's like the answer. How are you doing? Standing upright.
That's right.
You know,
taking in nutrition and breathing.
So this morning we are going to be, or this afternoon or evening or whenever you're watching. I think that everybody's like watching us as we do this, which of course is just bogus. But anyway, point is that we are going to do something that we really enjoy doing. You know how we do the words sometime and we talk about the misuse of words and the banning of words, and all of a sudden we're not allowed to use those words like, I can't even think of one right now.
Retard.
Perfect example. Yeah. Thank you so much.
It's now the R word.
Anyway, the point is, you know, they don't want you to say things like illegal.
Illegal alien.
Because
they hate
it doesn't suit their purposes.
It's an undocumented worker, even though they're not working.
So we started talking the other day about all the things that we believe that are probably now true that we used to think were fully hoaxes. It's like,
they were considered conspiracy theories.
Right.
They've either come true, like completely been proven, or it's leaning in that direction that they will be proven someday soon, and there's enough evidence to support that we think this is worth at least bringing up for people to research on their own,
and for us to do a show.
And there's also the opposite of that, where there were hoaxes that were promoted by the mainstream media that turned out to be completely false. So we have both of those, and we're going to tease each one of them and do future episodes on ones that we get feedback. It's like, hey, do this one, or please write in and let us know if you have a hoax or conspiracy theory that you would like us to address, because it's a pretty long list. It goes on to 2 pages.
We're going to be doing this for hours, so just sit back. No. The point is...
But this will make lots of future episodes.
But we want to hear back from you. We should talk at Palmer&Kunkel.com. Please comment on the things that you would like to know more about, and then we will delve into maybe some more research and just talk about it, or we'll just point at it on the page in front of us and laugh.
Yeah, exactly.
So there are some things on here. Now, we've both been looking at hoaxes, things that are considered hoaxes, some of which are clearly, maybe clearly to us. You know, that's the other thing. It's beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Right.
And so maybe, we just know facts or have come to know facts, or at least beliefs that would make something like, the sky thing, when the airplanes shoot chemtrails, which we've known as chemtrails, and we thought,
there's chemtrails and there's contrails,
right?
And they're different. Not every contrail is a chemtrail.
So, but we've learned a lot about this in the process of doing the show. We've researched things that we would probably go, who cares? Yeah, it's just a hoax. We're not going to pursue that. Who cares about that? What does it matter? Well, all of a sudden we get to a point where we read enough stuff, and it does matter.
Well, there are states that are banning chemtrails and geoengineering. So,
but not everybody knows.
Yeah, not everyone knows. I believe Tennessee is one of those states. But
and I would bet in Tennessee, most of the people that live there don't know that that's happening.
That's probably true.
So let's get on with the list.
Yeah. Well, the first part of the list is these are hoaxes that were promoted as being true by the mainstream media. Turned out to be hoaxes later on.
Yeah, let's go through them. Yes. And so we're gonna unfold these more if based on your feedback.
Yeah, we'll explain them to a degree, very very quickly, hopefully. And then if you want to hear more about that, let us know. So the first one in here is suckers and losers hoax, and this is attributed to when Trump was president. He had visited Normandy Beach, and he supposedly did not visit an American cemetery. And the story was promoted by the mainstream media that he said, I'm not going there because it's just full of suckers and losers who died or whatever. And that there's never been a tape of that or a video of that came out, and he denies it. And so I think that's a hoax, because he's been very supportive of veterans and very supportive of our fallen troops and police. And so that seems way out of character for Trump.
And the people that would put this hoax out there.
Yeah.
No,
They have no proof.
they know that there's no proof against their claim.
Yeah.
To be able to say, oh no, prove it. Prove that he didn't say that.
You can't disprove a negative.
When did you start stop
Yeah,
beating your
you
wife?
you can't. Yeah, exactly. And then the next one on the list is the Russian collusion hoax. And this is the Hillary Clinton campaign was saying that Trump is colluding with the Russians to steal the election.
Always.
When they were doing that.
Yeah.
They're the ones who had the Steele dossier, which was they sent a lot of money to Russia to get people to say that, you remember the PP tape and the PP hoax?
Of course.
Trump was peeing on
Sure.
his prostitutes in beds. Not a shred of evidence. And this was a campaign.
They didn't know that was just going to make him more attractive.
Yeah. And so actually, Trump wasn't colluded with the Russians.
No.
Hillary was.
Yeah.
And so that's been proven. But they still bring this up.
Everything that they've said is in their mind true.
Yeah.
Once they've
Even though it's
spoken
been
it.
disproven, Camel Toe brings it up.
Yeah.
So you want to do the next one?
Sure. Hands up, don't shoot. That's where Trayvon Martin, is it not?
No.
Oh, it's not Trayvon Martin. Okay,
Nope.
so another hoax that I'm
It's Michael Brown.
Michael Brown, right. Okay, and the kid supposedly, sort of walk up to the police car.
The gentle giant.
Right, that they proved wasn't so gentle and had been high.
He had just done a strong arm robbery of a shop owner, stealing cigars or something, and they're walking down the middle of the street, and the officer, I forget his name, but he can no longer work as a police officer, even though he did nothing wrong.
Right.
So he told him to get out of the middle of the street, and what's his face? The gentle giant Michael Brown reached in the car, tried to get his gun. The gun went off in the car, and there's evidence of that, blew his finger off or whatever. And then
his being the cop or his being Michael Brown?
Michael Brown's finger got damaged, and the blood and forensic evidence shows that there was a struggle in the car where Michael Brown was trying to get the gun. And this was a big kid, and so then he goes down the street, and he turns around.
Hence the word giant.
Yeah, gentle giant, and he starts charging, even though the cops telling him to stop. He's coming at him, and he gets dropped. And all these people said, "Oh no!" He said, "Hands up, don't shoot. Hands up, don't." He did the opposite. He was charging the cop.
Right.
And so the forensic evidence on the autopsy shows that he was charging. He was not. He didn't have his back turned. Didn't have his hands up. And then all these people who said that story, when the evidence came out that disputed them, they recanted their story and said, "Yeah, you're right. The cop shot him because he was being charged."
Even the attorney who made up the claim.
Yeah. Yep.
Big black guy who has represented one scumbag after another. He made that charge. He wanted to do this for the press, and everybody backed him at that moment. And all the libs, they went so far as, "Oh no, we're going to fire this cop anyway, even though he didn't do anything wrong."
He did nothing wrong, and he got fired.
Isn't that weird? I mean,
and he can never be a cop again. He's probably in hiding.
Really?
Well, I don't know, because he's hiding.
Okay. All right. Let's go to the next one. The Jussie. Is it actually Jussie?
It's Jussie, yeah. It's not Jesse, it's Jussie.
Everybody says it wrong.
He's got to be fancy.
Are we here?
What do you mean? No, they say Jussie. They say Juicy to make fun of him.
But over the TV, they say it really fast, and so they don't hear.
It's Jussie Smollett.
Jussie Smollett.
So if you recall that, he is an actor in, what was it?
Who cares?
Boardwalk Empire or something.
Yeah.
And he made up this story in Chicago at 2 a.m. or something. He went out to get a Subway sandwich. It was 30 below or some craziness. He got attacked on the sidewalk by these MAGA guys with MAGA hats.
Right.
He said, "This is MAGA country, Chicago's MAGA
black
country."
guys?
Well, we didn't know at the time. He said it was white guys.
I don't remember that fact. Okay.
They found that out later. And so they said... Juicy Smollett said, these MAGA guys put a noose around his neck and poured bleach on him and punched him, roughed him up. So we'll find out later, he hired, and they have the check, he hired these 2 bodybuilder guys who he met in the gym to rough him up.
Weren't they his trainers, or one of them was his trainer?
They knew each other.
Yeah.
And it's "Hey, I'm going to hire you guys. Here's a check to rough me up into this fake crime." And it was totally found out. He's been discredited and fined. I mean, he was trying to set off a race war, basically.
Well, he was trying to become a star, more important star.
But he could have set off
He wanted to be relevant.
Yeah, but
there wasn't any way.
What could happen is like what happened with Alna to Sharpton, that Tawana Bradley thing years ago. That actually led to some people doing vigilante justice, and people got killed over that lie. So this could have gone the same way, and this should be treated very seriously to do these racial lies to stir up animosity. But he was found out. He still claims he's innocent, even though these two black guys that he paid to rough him up, and we have the receipts.
And they've testified.
They've testified that, he told them, rough me up, blah, blah, blah. And who the hell goes at 2 a.m. for a Subway sandwich?
And these guys are actually, aren't they like twins
They're Nigerian,
or something?
Yeah. They're like bodybuilders, and they cooperated fully with the police. Like, he hired us to rough him up.
Right, from the beginning, right from the start. It's like he didn't count on that. He didn't think that part through, I think.
Right.
Good people on both sides. This hoax is something that supposedly Donald Trump had said, and we've heard it repeated over and over ad nauseum.
And they have tape of this one. Unlike the suckers and losers, the problem is they edit the tape.
Yes. They just can concatenate the end where he said, of course.
There's good people on both sides. And this is all related to tearing down historical statues. And, it started off with Confederate
Didn't it get
generals.
into Nazis, too? There's good bad.
He denounced the white supremacists and neo-Nazis right away. Denounced them in uncertain terms. Then he said, and because there's statues of like Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, and people want to tear down. Oh, they were white men and they're slave owners. Like, it's true, because years ago Trump said, where is it going to stop? If you're taking down like Stonewall Jackson and other Southern, Robert E. Lee, taking down those statues, where is it going to stop? Is it going to be every slave owner, from the past? And that's the way it's gotten. And so there are
because they want to ignore the facts.
They want to erase history. And so there were people on both sides of this. There were people who wanted to erase history, and there's people who are not Nazis, not white supremacists, but they feel like history is important. And it's a good learning thing. It's like, who's that on that statue? Well, that's Robert E. Lee. Let me tell you about slavery and how horrible it was. If you erase your past, you're doomed to repeat it.
Yes, right.
And we are repeating it because slavery is huge now at the southern border. They're bringing child sex workers across and all kinds of stuff. It's
Every
terrible.
time this subject comes up, I mean, the broad breadth of rewriting history, I think of Michelle Obama, who said specifically, we have a recording of it, we need to rewrite our history.
Yeah. Isn't that great?
And you go, oh, God.
That's Banana Republic stuff.
One of the pieces of history that it was a hoax that we should probably go into one time is that Obama is a citizen of the U.S.
Yeah.
Because
that's there. There's conspiracy. I have it in conspiracies, and it's not, conclusively proven, but I have that he's born in Kenya.
Right.
And that he's a Muslim.
Right.
Which we can get to.
Well, and which he's made statements about that.
Oh, of course.
He was being coached into a thing when he said one time, as a Christian man, but he didn't say as a Christian. He didn't follow the script. He said, as a Muslim man, I blah, 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 blah. And then what's his name? Who's the guy on ABC News that you really hate the most?
All of them?
No.
Wolf Blitzer?
No, he's ABC. That's CNN.
I never watched those news.
Okay, but you know who he is? He used to be with the Clinton Foundation.
George Stephanopoulos?
Yes. And he's the one who said, "You mean Christian, sir?"
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just like my wife, Michelle. Yeah, Big Mike. All right, so that one is a good one. And they keep using it. Even that baked bean tooth, baby tooth loser Michael Rappaport, who hated Trump, he actually heard the entire tape one time. He's like, I've been lied to. All these years I've been ragging on Trump about this sort of thing.
Because he believed the lie.
He believed the lie.
Right.
And then he heard the whole thing. He's like, no, he denounced Nazis and white supremacists like from the get-go in no uncertain terms. And then they cut that out. And when he's referring to good people on both sides, it's people who want to preserve history.
Right.
Not neo-Nazis.
And he was talking about the argument.
The argument is a valid argument.
Not about the destruction.
That's
anyway.
Right. All right.
So January 6th insurrection, which is like maybe one of the biggest lies of our...
It's the high holy day of the left.
Yes.
It's like, oh my God, our false flag event worked.
Yeah.
Look at that. So,
and it's also the very basis of the reason most people in this country want to see Nancy Pelosi put in chains.
Yeah.
and dragged behind a pickup truck across
Maybe.
Washington.
That might be too fast.
Is that?
Yeah. But it's crazy because if it is an insurrection, it's the first unarmed insurrection in the history of the world. Nobody who's been arrested has been charged with insurrection, including President Trump. And so how can it possibly be an insurrection? There were so many federal agents and federal assets embedded in the crowd to stir up and cause it to turn ugly. I mean, it never became an insurrection, and most people were peaceful, unlike BLM and Antifa riots, which we'll get to. But they have so many lies around this January 6th thing. Because
Who was the girl that got shot?
Ashley Babbitt.
Right.
Some other people were breaking the window. There was like a glass pane next to the door, and James Byrd was behind it, that cop.
Probably so, but this was a body camera.
She was in that group, and he fired and shot her in the neck. And then she fell back into the crowd.
Okay.
But James Byrd, he had left his service firearm in the bathroom. It's like, what? That's pretty bad to leave your firearm on it. That's a fireable offense, I would think. And instead of being fired, he was, he's still there. He shot maybe that was a deal. Maybe it's like, you're not going to get fired if you do this favor for us later. And
So what would the favor have been?
To shoot one of the insurrectionists.
Okay, so that was the goal.
That could have, and this is wild speculation,
Okay.
but the fact that they were praising him as being a hero, he wasn't in any danger. And she was not coming at him. She was not armed.
Right.
She's like little 5'3" sort of thing, an Air Force veteran. Shoots her and kills her. That was not the only fatality. Everything else was Trump supporters who either got trampled or had medical emergencies.
Right.
And that one cop died the next day, but the autopsy report reveals it was a natural cause. It was like a stroke or some other thing that happened that was unrelated. Well, it could have been related to the excitement and everything of what's going on. And they always say that he was killed during the insurrection. And then there were 4 cops in the next week or two who committed suicide. And they lumped those in with, and that's why they're saying like 5 cops were killed during January 6th. No, those cops might have been whistleblowers and got, well, they could have committed suicide, but that's not, you can't blame that on the people protesting a stolen election. It's like it's just, that's the craziest thing. Why would you kill yourself over that? I don't know.
But I mean,
being a cop's stressful, and they have a very high suicide rate.
Look, I think that when the government is making something happen, and clearly they do this from time to time,
people aren't playing along.
But all of a sudden you realize I'm in on the inside of this very corrupt movement.
Yeah.
I've been told to obey, and I'm going against my oath to uphold the Constitution. Right. I mean, if you're a cop and that is your goal,
you're sworn to the Constitution, not any person.
I can see that they would say, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
I can't be involved in this anymore.
Right. Or they were going to come forward, and they ended up like Seth Rich and Vince Foster.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. Of course.
All right. So, that goes in. The next one was police officers were killed in January 6th hoax. So we covered that hoax. We covered that already. Complete hoax. No police officers were killed January 6th. One guy died the next day from medical condition unrelated to January 6th,
Right.
and 4 committed suicide.
But it was all part of Nancy Pelosi's script.
Oh, I saw some advertisements the other day on social media. It's
They're
like,
still carrying it out.
January 6th, and they show these police officers that were killed. No, they weren't.
Right.
I don't want to see any police officer killed, but don't lie about it. So the next one is Trump used the N-word hoax. So,
But let me go back to the police officers not killed. This is one of those things where the left comes up with something that you cannot disprove. We're going to say it.
Well, you can. The autopsy report from Brian Sicknick, the officer that died the following day, shows that it was not from anything, not blunt force trauma like they had said. They said originally he got hit with a fire extinguisher.
Right.
But there's video of him walking around the White House just totally fine. I think he was a bike cop because he had a bike helmet on. So it's like, well, he didn't get hit in the head. And the autopsy report shows he had a stroke or something like that. It was not related to the events of the previous day.
Okay.
At least not directly related.
But my point is that nobody's going to do that unless somebody else does it and presents it.
Yeah.
I mean, the left, Nancy Pelosi, can come up with any story at all,
Right.
apply the story, and 99% of the people are not going to see the correction later.
Well, it's hard to find it.
It's hard to find it.
Because
and you're relying on somebody else to find it.
The algorithms on Google, the most popular search engine, which influences other search engines,
Right.
They take you to the leftist talking points first couple of pages. You have to dig deep, very deep,
Right.
to find the facts or to find an alternative point of view.
Right.
So,
And then it's just going to mention it. It's not going to prove
barely.
anything. Right.
And if you're looking for sometimes I put very specific searches out of things that I know to be true because I saw an article like maybe months earlier or years earlier. It's like, I need to find that. They'll put the stuff that disputes that first, even though I'm looking for the stuff that supports it.
Right.
It's just crazy. So Trump used the N-word hoax. Well, Trump is like one of the most photographed, videoed, recorded people ever. If he had used that and there was actual evidence, that would have come out. Now, that being said, with AI and voice, simulation and all that, they could make something up that would look pretty convincing. But they haven't. They haven't even done that. So
Because for AI, they can't even use the N-word.
yeah,
Right.
That's right. It probably won't allow them to.
And so probably my guess is that they said, look, this is something that we can pin on him, and nobody can say it in order to back away from it. In other words,
Right.
Nobody can prove that he
Prove
didn't
that he didn't
do it.
You can't prove a negative.
One more time.
Yeah, one more time.
That's what the leftists do. That's what Marxism is based on.
right. Exactly.
Misinformation.
So this whole lead up to the 2020 election, the BLM, Antifa, mostly peaceful protests. I love that video of the guy saying this is a mostly peaceful protest with buildings burning in the background, like completely engulfed.
Yeah.
A conflagration.
Yeah.
and
weren't they the courthouse and the federal building?
oh
and
my
it
God!
was
And in Portland, they were
unbelievable.
they burned police cars and they assault police officers, and it's mostly peaceful. But they act like January 6th, which no police officers were killed,
Right.
as we've proven, and they act like that was worse than 9/11 and Pearl Harbor combined. And a similar thing on this BLM Antifa mostly peaceful protest hoax is the Summer of Love, which happened in Seattle, where Antifa BLM scumbags took over several city blocks in Capitol Hill area of Seattle. And it's so funny because these people are anti-firearms, supposedly, and anti-borders. First thing they do, they set up barricades to the area and have armed guards checking people's papers. They also don't want people to show IDs to vote and stuff, but you had to show your ID to get in and out of this autonomous zone. And the mayor of Seattle, Jenny Durka, said, this is like the Summer of Love. And
Right.
These freaking idiots, they killed at least 2 young black men and then hid the evidence. They were picking up the shell casings and stuff like that. And I hear from reliable sources in the police department in Seattle, because I used to live in that area, that is maybe as many as 7 people were killed.
Really?
But 2 were known for sure. And
Did anybody have any idea why? I mean,
they had come in, this carload of young black men had come in and not stopped at the barricade and kind of run in. And it's so funny, these people who don't want borders, they had a very strong border with armed guards.
right.
And they were shaking down businesses within their autonomous zone for money to keep funding their crap, even though they're probably being funded by George Soros. But these guys weren't playing ball with them, and so they got shot and killed. And they wouldn't let ambulances in, and they were picking up all the evidence. The other thing that happened, too, there's this one low-level rap star, local guy that everyone knew, who had a bunch of AR-15s in the trunk of his car. And he's
Inside the
autonomy,
Okay.
he's passing them out to people in there, which you can't do. And he's like, "Are you 18?" Yeah. Well, you have to be 21 to possess a semi-automatic rifle in Washington State,
Okay.
and you have to do a background check. None of that happened, and this guy's on video doing that. Nothing ever happened to him. So these people who want to grab our guns, we're peaceful people, don't do a damn thing to this guy clearly breaking the law with the AR-15s that they want to ban. Nothing happens to this guy because he's one of these scumbag BLM protesters.
Well, also the mayor probably told the police hands off.
Oh, they did for sure. And they,
city council.
instead of like going in there with bulldozers and moving the barricades and then busting heads like they should have, they paid off these jerks to leave after they totally.
Oh, really?
Yeah, after they totally destroyed.
Okay.
So it's like, oh yeah, they're just going to do it again.
Oh my God!
It's like giving terrorists $6 billion, like the Hamas terrorists $6 billion to get a couple of hostages back, which we would never do, Joe Biden. All right.
So let's go on to the next.
Boy, we're barely getting through these.
Yeah, I know.
Kyle Rittenhouse murdered black men.
Which, I mean, the camera was on him the entire time.
Uh-huh.
It's like, how could they possibly make that claim?
Well, I couldn't believe it because after he was acquitted or found not guilty, or it was proven it was self-defense. Thank God they had video of all this stuff.
Because even the judge and all those people, they were set against him.
Yeah, they were clearly trying to kill him, and he was just, committing self-defense, doing nothing but self-defense. But even after he was acquitted on this, I heard some British, he would have been killed. He would have been killed.
He was definitely defending
and they
himself.
wouldn't have cared about that.
Right, of course.
The scumbag leftists.
Right.
But I heard some British TV it might have been Reuters, some British TV thing saying, I just cannot believe that this Kyle Rittenhouse got acquitted after he killed several black men. It's like, first of all, he didn't kill any black man. He did take a shot at one black guy, the skateboard guy, who was to swing the skateboard at him. But he missed. Thank God, because he probably would have, because the racial dynamics, they probably would have thrown the key away and locked him up forever. Even though he was a skateboard is clearly a deadly weapon. You can be bludgeoned with it and to death. But like the last guy he shot, who he didn't kill, he shot him in the arm, and it's awesome because his arm just blows up. It looks like Gallagher hitting a watermelon. That guy had a .45 caliber handgun. He was pointing right at Rittenhouse as Rittenhouse is on the ground.
Right.
It's like that's clearly self-defense.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
But the one thing here that I was troubled by with Rittenhouse, and I think he's a good kid. I mean, first of all, that he was there.
His life is destroyed.
And he went in and said, hey, friendly, whatever to these guys.
He was trying to help.
But see, that's what I'm trying. What do you mean he was trying to help? I mean, does he know what he was trying to do?
Well, he had a medical kit. He was there to help people who had medical conditions. He was trying to protect businesses that were up there from the rioters and, the vandalizing scumbags in BLM.
Okay.
And
because I got the feeling that maybe he was a little too sympathetic.
To what?
To the left.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in the fact that, he came in and said friendly, et cetera.
Well, yeah, you don't want to start off being contentious, but when they're trying to kill you, you have to bust a cap.
But maybe that they were trying to kill him because of the fact that they were the leaders and they didn't want anybody else to come in and take control, because that is the left's main concern most of the time is control.
And Tim Walz's wife was opening the windows so she could smell the burning rubber, because that's the smell of freedom or some bullshit like that.
Yeah,
oh my
she's
God,
as wacky as he is. Maybe more.
He killed two guys. He killed a pedophile and a girlfriend beater. And then the other guy, the guy he shot, he's a scumbag too. I think, he had a rap sheet as well. And so, the people that he hit, he was 3 for 3. He didn't hurt any innocent people. He wounded a scumbag, killed 2 scumbags. It's like, that's pretty freaking fantastic.
I don't disagree. I mean, I'm definitely a fan, but it's just I've never had my questions answered with because I think of it from my perspective. Would I have gone in there if I had that gun? Would I have gone in there? No.
Yeah, maybe not. I wouldn't have gone in there without a gun, though.
No, but you probably wouldn't have gone in.
Yeah,
I mean,
I wouldn't
that
have
many
gone
guns
in.
are going to be pointing at you.
Right.
I mean, there's too many
they always
insane
say
people.
don't go anywhere with a gun you wouldn't go without a gun.
But the other part is that you're walking into the middle of a group of known insane people.
Yeah.
What are the chances that
they're trying to protect businesses? I mean,
what could go wrong?
Yeah, and the cops weren't helping because,
of course not.
Scumbag Waltz told him to stand down.
Right. He made them give up a police station.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
And walk away from it.
Just like in Seattle.
Yeah.
The next one.
This is the big one.
Yeah, this is a big one.
COVID-19 wet market origins hoax. In other words, that was some kind of pangolin who mated with a squirrel
bat or a squirrel
or whatever. I mean, I don't know
a
what it was,
wombat.
but
Who knows?
first of all, the whole wet market thing is like really creepy.
Oh, disgusting.
I mean, I've
you seen video?
no, I've been to one.
Oh God.
I walked into it with somebody. They were all walking in. Hey, come on, let's go check. Well, all of a sudden you are confronted with all kinds of snakes still dripping their guts out from their hanging on a rope, and you go, oh my God.
It's very hygienic.
Yeah, nothing is hygienic
No, I
there.
know. Not in China.
But in China, this is in Hong Kong
Yeah.
where I
Oh.
went. So
It's even
was a
worse in mainland China.
I'm certain of it. But still, it was disgusting past anything I'd ever seen. So you got to know that the mentality of people who believe that it's okay to create these kind of hoaxes, and they've probably even seen things like.
Well, that was the official line for a while, and then a
some
number
households it might still be.
of scientists, virologists, were looking at this COVID-19 virus, and they're like, "This looks like it was engineered," and then that was like squashed, and. Oh, yeah. What happened? What's in Wuhan? Oh, the Wuhan Institute of Virology, where it's like a research laboratory that's had a lot of safety violations. And one of the first fatalities from COVID-19 was one of the researchers from that facility. But they're still trying to push it off on the wet market for the longest time because Fauci had funded that illegally because we were told, Fauci was told, I think it was under the Barack Obama administration, to no more gain of function work is supposed to be done. Well, he didn't do it in the United States, but he funded it over in China.
Using our tax dollars.
Using our tax dollars, and that was not supposed to happen in a facility that was subpar, and this thing got out. And they didn't want you to find out about that. I mean, they're basically making bioweapons.
There's so many different versions of this that it could be, and all of them are bad.
Yeah, they're all bad.
There's not
but
one.
It certainly wasn't the wet market.
No, but they wanted it to make sense so that you'd believe it.
Oh, yeah.
Or that it could make
They're
sense.
trying to, it was a distraction.
Gee,
it was
we
a
don't
red
really
herring.
know.
Yeah. Well, I do know.
No.
Yeah,
of course.
We know now.
We do know now, but
Yeah.
at the time it's like, what? But a lot of people will believe it just because they've been told.
Yeah, over and over, repeatedly. That's why, like Camel Toe and Biden keep repeating these hoaxes that have been, debunked a long time ago.
Exactly. Okay.
Oh, and here's one that doesn't ever seem to get debunked.
Go
It hasn't
for it.
been fully debunked yet, but anthropogenic global warming is real and is caused by CO2 emissions.
Right.
I believe that's a hoax.
Yes. There was a congressman who's asking all of these experts on the panel who are testifying in front of in the House committee, and he says,
Panelists, let me just go right down the line real fast. What % of our atmosphere is CO2?
About 5%.
5?
I'll just follow you then.
We'll go 7. That's my favorite number.
I'll see their 5 and suggest that we know that transportation causes 49% of CO2, so that's why we're all working on energy transition.
All right. So what number do you think it is?
5.
5? How about you? I didn't hear you, Mr. Dreyer.
7.
7. Did you have one, Mr. Boyd?
8. I'm going to get the high end.
All right. Well, I appreciate that, and I don't mean to put you on ice. I ask a lot of people that because all we hear is climate change, CO2, CO2. I heard a couple of you on the panel saying you're looking to change your vehicles to electric, even though we don't have the electric grid. And me as a farmer, I wouldn't be real happy about running out and replacing $300,000, $500,000, $1 million pieces of equipment because someone wants it to be electric. The answer is 0.04%. Not 1%, not 0.5%. It's 0.04%, and it's gone up from 0.03 over the last couple decades.
And it's just ridiculously low. And they changed the name because they used to call it global warming, but it should be called anthropogenic global warming because that puts the factor that mankind is the cause of the effect. Otherwise, it's just global warming, which could be natural. So they changed it to climate change, which has been occurring for 4.6 billion years since the Earth was formed. And it'll constantly happen. Things will change in our climate based on these very long cycles and lots of different factors. And people are pissing and moaning about this, was it Hurricane Helene and the Milton that came through? And they're, oh, this is proof that there's global warming and, climate change, and this is going to be worse and worse. Well, you remember back when, this is a long time ago now, Katrina hit New Orleans, and we heard from the experts back then, it's only going to get worse and worse every year. Well, it was like the quietest 10 to 15 years after that we had very little hurricane activity. And I think this most recent one, and this is just speculation, even though I am a scientist, I haven't really fully delved into it, that because of the solar activity and all the energy in the ionosphere coming from the sun, which is provable because what's happening in the night skies recently? We're seeing the northern lights way south, like even here in southern Arizona, which it's like they're called the northern lights. How come we're seeing them on basically the Mexico border? Because the solar activity is very high right now, so the ionosphere and everything that interplays with our atmosphere are very charged up right now, and so that could be a big factor in why these hurricanes were so severe on the East Coast.
Sure.
Why wouldn't it be?
And then when you add to that the conspiracy of the contrails or the chemtrails
And HAARP, which is a high amplitude something. It basically, instead of the sun charging up the ionosphere like is happening now with, that's why we're seeing northern lights throughout the continental U.S. rather than just Alaska. That with HAARP beaming these things from the Earth.
Right.
I mean, that's what they do. So they can pinpoint stuff with that, but we also have very high activity right now. And, it's provable that the ionosphere is very charged up because we're seeing northern lights like you haven't seen in a long time. And that has nothing to do with people driving their SUVs. That's the sun. That's solar activity.
But when they, meaning people, meaning maybe the military.
Right.
or whatever.
It is the military. I worked around one of those HAARP antennas up in Alaska.
So when they do that kind of stuff, does that have any impact? Either on the CO2 or the sun, or, is it possible?
That doesn't have anything on the sun, but it can charge up. It can put energy into the ionosphere.
Okay.
And that's what you're seeing. You're seeing all these particles that normally aren't visible are being bombarded by so much energy that they fluoresce. Electron jumps out of its orbit and drops back down. When it does that, it releases photons of light. That's why you're seeing that.
Okay.
And so it just indicates extremely high energy in the upper atmosphere, which can definitely cause severe weather. And they're not, of course, they're not saying that. But everyone knows. You've been seeing pictures, people posting pictures all the time the last couple of weeks, everywhere in the United States of, oh, yeah, we're seeing the northern lights. This is really cool. Yeah, it is very cool, but
lights are so pretty.
That's pretty rare.
Yeah.
It's pretty rare. You see, when I worked up in Alaska, you'll see them.
Right.
But normally down here, it's very rare, and it's like, oh, yeah, look at the northern lights. They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're going to have some crazy weather, too.
Yeah.
Because of that. Yeah.
So, in fact, wow, we just blown half an hour, and we haven't even gotten halfway down this list. So we're going to continue this. This is how we talk all the time.
Yeah.
So that's why we decided to do a
go off
podcast.
on tangents.
Yeah, we do, but they're always informative.
Hopefully they are.
I enjoy hearing what you have to say, and I certainly enjoy telling you what's the truth.
Right. Set me straight.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, I'm Russell Palmer.
I'm Doug Kunkel.
We should talk. Palmer&Kunkel will be back next week with a whole new set of, we call them conspiracies.
That turned out to be true. And send us your suggestions for hoaxes that are false. Or what?
Well, anything that you want to hear about, any conspiracies that might be questionable or whatever.
There's plenty of them out there.
Conspiracies may or may not prove to be true, but some of them are.
Yeah.
Okay. We should talk at palmerkunkel.com.